are going to be making something called focaccia, and I'm sure you're probably familiar with that, but I look a little nervous because I just don't want this to be a wasted video. I've made focaccia 2 times in the last 2 weeks, and I'm just not satisfied with the results of them. And I made a video about a really fabulous sandwich, and only because the sandwich was so fabulous did I go ahead and use it. But I wasn't really pleased with the focaccia, and when my husband was editing the video, he said, "You didn't even show how to make the bread." And I said, people can buy focaccia. I'll try some more recipes later, but eventually I'm going to stumble upon that perfect recipe. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe it's the recipe. I don't know. Anyway, the recipes are all a little different. So let's get started on this. It is kind of rainy outside today, so I don't mind necessarily having my oven on. So this is a real blessing for us when you get a break from the heat. All right, our focaccia starts with 500 grams of plain flour, and I've measured that out in the bowl. And I have 400 grams of water heating up on the stove, not too super hot, but just warm. I can actually put my hand on the bottom of this pan and it doesn't burn. So I don't mind putting it on my countertop. This calls for sugar, but I'm of course replacing that with honey, and it's only about a teaspoon of it, so that's not a big deal. Basically to feed the yeast, and I'm going to add it directly to my water so it'll dissolve. I don't want a blob of honey in the flour that just won't dissolve. Get that stirred up, and I'm going to add our yeast directly to the water, and this calls for 3 to 4 grams of yeast, and I've measured that out. And this is just dry, instant yeast. It's not anything special. Well, it is special because it works. But it's not anything different than what you'd find at just your supermarket. I'm going to give this a little stir. I know this yeast is active. I just used it yesterday, so I don't have to worry about it not being alive. I'm going to put my salt in with my flour, and this is 12 to 15 grams of of salt in with the flour. And I'll just give it a little stir with my finger. We'll pour our yeast, honey, and water mixture in here. Now this is a high hydration dough. If any of you know anything about focaccia, it's the one with all the bubbles in it. It's fabulously crunchy on the outside, soft and tender and moist on the inside. So when I say high hydration, that means you think there's way too much liquid in it, but it's really not. It has a lot of hydration or water in it. And yes, it's very sticky to work with. All three, both of the recipes that I've tried recently and then one that I tried about 2 years ago, all of them were pretty close to the same recipe. Some of them take longer. Some you ferment in the refrigerator overnight. Some are quick. You have a lot of stretch and folds, and I'll show you what that means in a minute. But they're just not turning out like I want. It's not getting crispy enough on the outside, and I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong, but we're going to figure this out. This also calls for 2 tablespoons of oil, and I guess I could measure that since I have my little cup right here. I'm a pretty good oil eyeballer, but if it's right there in front of me, might as well use it. This is not one of those breads that takes a lot of effort as far as kneading. Really, there's not a lot of kneading. It's more stretch and fold. Again, I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. But for right now, we are just going to mix these ingredients together. If you have a stand mixer, you're more than welcome to use a stand mixer. I don't necessarily find that it needs a stand mixer just because of so much liquid in it. It's not a problem stirring it up. I doubt that I'm the only person that takes a trip to Italy and then comes home and wants to imitate everything that they had on the trip in my own kitchen so we can eat it on a regular basis. The food is just that good. Some places you go and you think the food's going to be great. Some places you go and go, the scenery is going to be fabulous. Italy and Greece were both of those. But again, some places, they have to, usually our tour guide has to wait till we get there to go, you're not here for the food. And I'm like, what? I'm everywhere for the food. But some places we've been, it's just not for the food. You just eat enough to get by and move on because they're just not as creative as what I think they should be. But you know what? I don't live there and I don't know the obstacles they have to go through to make what they make. So anyway, all that being said, Italy and Greece both have really, really good food. And as most of you know, we had a video recently about our trip to there, and it was a very, very beautiful place. I cannot recommend it highly enough. All right. Basically, this is just stirred up, and you can see how sticky that is. See if I can get another angle of this. It's almost like super thick pancake batter. All right, I'm going to get my shower cap that I use, or one of the shower caps that I use to cover food with. I have several of these. We're just going to cover this. We're going to let it rest for about 30 minutes, and then we'll come back and I'll show you what the stretch and fold looks like. It's basically what it sounds like. You're going to stretch it and fold it, but I'll show you what it looks like. We're going to do several of these, and then hopefully we'll have a good loaf of bread at the end. All right, our timer has gone off at 30 minutes. And so we're going to use our spatula. It still has oil on it for mixing it up. And we're just going to stretch and fold. And again, just like it sounds, stretching and folding. Now, we're doing it with the spatula this time. Next time we'll do it with our hands. We have to oil our hands really well or get them wet. But apparently, from everything I'm seeing online, this just stretches out those strands of gluten. Instead of breaking them, it makes them longer, which keeps things together almost like fibers in a fabric. You can stretch them and make them longer, and the fabric will be very luxurious. You start breaking up those fibers, and you're going to have a real, like a brittle, falling apart-ish type fabric, if that's a real word. Okay, I'm trying to show this to you, but it's kind of wanting to slide off my spatula as I'm stirring it. Let me do it from this angle, this camera. So I'm basically stretching it up as far as I can get it with the spatula and folding it over what's in the bowl. Maybe I shouldn't wonder too much why my other one's messed up, because I really don't know what I'm doing. But if this turns out well, you'll have the recipe and you'll know what to do too. Now, let me back up a bit. The two focaccias that I made before didn't taste bad. They had a fabulous flavor to them, but it just wasn't quite the texture that I was after. So I know what I'm after. Maybe nobody else does, but I've had it before, and it has to be duplicated somehow. Okay, you just want to do this several times, and there's really not a number to it, or if there was, I didn't write it down. All right, We're going to cover this up and we're going to let this rest for an hour. So we'll come back in an hour and then we'll do the stretch and fold with our hands, and then we'll put it in the pan. I think at that point, I think at that point we can put it in our pan. Going to put a whole lot of olive oil in the pan and we'll see how it works then. So we'll be back. It has been 1 hour and our dough is rested. Let's get that pan out of the way. This is my stainless steel pan that I'm going to bake it in. I was so excited when I bought this pan because I love me some stainless steel, but it kind of got warped somewhere along the way. I remember the day I was cooking in it and I heard a snap, and I can't bend it back in the right direction, but it's a great size, so I'm just going to keep using it. All right, here is our dough. I've washed my hands, and now I'm going to coat my hands in oil so I can touch this. So we're going to do stretch and fold with our hands instead of the spatula. Let me get that out of the way since I have a camera right there. I'm the worst cinematographer ever. You do not watch these videos for my videoing capabilities. Okay, so basically take it, stretch it as far as you can, fold it over. In the videos I'm watching, all of them say, and this makes the dough stronger. I don't really know what that means. I do know that this is very jiggly and it's very soft. And it's pretty fun to work with. I don't think there's really a number as far as counting like how many times you pull this up and stretch it, but I'd say as long as you go around the bowl and get all of it stretched and folded, that should be enough. But like I said, I don't really know what I'm doing. I just know a good focaccia when I see it, when I taste it, and I'm doing my best to get to that point. All right, I'm going to set that aside for just a bit. We're going to put oil in our pan. You'd think all that oil on my hands would keep it from sticking, but not all the way. All right. I'd say put at least 2 tablespoons in there. We're going to spread it around. I would say if you have a dark pan about this size, now this is about a 15 by 10 inch pan, so somewhere along those lines is what you're going to need for this amount of dough. But if you have one of these pans that's dark, now would be the time to use it. I do not have dark pans, and I'll tell you why, except for a cast iron skillet, obviously. But when I was first married, somebody gave me a big set of Baker's Secret, and I thought, oh, I am just going to have so much fun cooking, and I burnt everything nearly that I tried to make. Well, it's because you really shouldn't be baking in dark bakeware. It just cooks things too fast on the outside, and the inside is left undercooked. So not a good idea for bakers, especially new bakers. It's a wonder I ever wanted to make anything else again after all that failure. But when I eventually got rid of all that Baker's Secret, I vowed I would never have a dark pan. Well, if you have a dark pan somewhere hiding up in the attic or something, go get it. Use it for this because you need it to cook fast on the bottom as well as on the top. We're going to have our oven set at about 480 degrees. That's a pretty high temperature, but you want the bottom cooking hot as well. But again, I don't have any dark pans, or I'd be using that. I'd be using it for this recipe right here. I was not a fan of the dark pan. Almost makes me have a flashback when I see somebody using it on a video or just somebody I know cooking, like making cookies or something. I'm going, ugh, you're so gonna ruin that whole batch of cookie dough. Just gonna ruin the whole thing because the bottoms of those cookies are gonna be black and you're gonna wonder why they're not done all the way through. Okay, this is what it looks like when it goes in the pan. We're gonna do more stretch and fold now that it's in the pan. I'm trying to spread that oil around too as I stretch it. Okay, I'm going to press this down. Now this isn't the dimpling part. I know you've probably seen videos of people dimpling it with their fingers, and that's the fun part, but this is not it yet. We still have to let this rest another, let's see, what did I write down? I'm at 40 minutes. So 40 to 50 minutes, somewhere around in there. It wants to puddle in those corners that are low because this pan is wonky. But I'm guessing that's okay. All right, I'm going to wash my hands because we have to put some cling film on that. All right, the reason we're going to put cling film on it is because we're going to put a towel over it to keep it moist from dried out on the top, but I don't want my towel sitting on that oil. So I need a barrier between the two of them. All right, now I'm going to put this out in the sunroom where it's a whole lot warmer out there than it is in here. We're going to let this rise for about 40 minutes. Then we'll come back, we'll do our dimpling. We'll do our bacon off. Let's see, I think the dimpling's the last thing we have to do. Yeah, and then we're going to pop it in a 480-degree oven. So I'll preheat the oven before I turn the camera back on so that way we can dimple it and get it right in the oven. So we'll see how this turns out. Wish me luck. Our oven is preheated. This has been resting for at least 40 minutes. And I took the cloth off of it and just put it back in the cabinet. So it still has the cellophane wrap on it. Try to get that off there without making too huge of a mess. All right, so here's the fun part. You're going to take your fingers, make sure they got plenty of oil on them, and just dimple this. And the only reason this is skinny like this, again, is because my pan is wonky. If your pan's flat, it's probably going to look a whole lot better than mine. Now see, I love the fact that it has these bubbles coming up here. Let's see if I can get a closer look at that. See the bubbles right there? That makes me happy. Okay, dimple it as you need to. At this point, some people choose to put cherry tomatoes, Kalamata olives, rosemary, oregano, whatever on this, and that's fine. Put whatever you want on it. I'm just going to do mine plain because this is probably going to wind up being a sandwich. Let me wash my hands. All right, so this is what our focaccia looks like right now, and I'm hoping when this comes out of the oven that it is going to have a crusty top to it and a crusty underside to it as well. That's the issue I had with the other ones. Again, taste was fine, but the underside just was softer than what I wanted it. Okay, and if you want to, you can always put more olive oil on it. I'll just take some of this from the sides. Drip on there. I feel like I'm painting. All right, pop this in the oven. This is going to bake for 12 to 15 minutes. Again, our oven is set at 480 degrees. Did you see that rescue? Whew, save that. All right, I'm going to set it for 15 minutes, and I'll check it right before that, and I'll turn the cameras back on right before we take it out of the oven. I don't want to look too excited, but I'm really excited. This looks so much better than the other ones that I've made. Okay, I'm trying to keep it together. Okay, so if you've not seen the video that I made a summer sandwich, it was just like, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 videos ago. I don't know, I can't remember which order they're in. But we had this sandwich when we were in Rome. There is a viral sandwich place that in Rome, there's a little street, and there's one restaurant here and one restaurant there. It's the exact same restaurant, but there's 2 different locations, and there's like 50 people in line at all times at this sandwich shop waiting for a sandwich. Now, I just got one of their more popular sandwiches. I didn't even know which one it was. I just knew I wasn't that hungry, and I thought, I'll just get something that looks familiar to me. I didn't want to be too risky because I wasn't hungry enough to eat a whole lot anyway. It was so good. I wanted to go back the next day so bad, and my daughter said, no, we're going someplace new. So we went someplace new. I still wanted that sandwich again. So I'm trying to duplicate that sandwich. But this focaccia looks like I may have hit the jackpot. All right, I'm going to turn this timer off, turn the oven off, and this is coming out. The oil that has puddled in the corners of the pan, because again, the pan's wonky, it is just bubbling in there like it is in an outside cooker or something. Oh my goodness, this looks so good. All right, this is what we have. How pretty is that? All right, now, here's the key. As long as it's not stuck to the bottom too bad. I'm trying to pry it out without breaking it. On some of these recipes, they used a sheet of parchment down there. I just hesitated to use parchment and so much oil. I just didn't know how much good that would do. But I may try to use parchment next time. This smells divine. I don't know, I could have that much oil in it and still cling so tightly to a pan. That's crazy. Whew, there we go. Okay, had some stuck to it. Don't worry, I'll take care of those when I turn the camera off. All right, that is nice and crusty. And do I dare flip it over? See what it looks like. Ooh, that looks good. Okay, I think we have a winner here, folks. All right, this focaccia is gonna turn into a sandwich. Trust me, it's gonna be so good. I just know it. I'm so excited. Okay. There you have it, homemade focaccia, and this has taken, what, maybe 2.5 hours? I can't remember how long it was from start to finish. I didn't really add it up. I should have done that before I turned the camera on, but it's only noon right now, and I know this wasn't the first thing I started doing when I got up this morning, so it has taken less than half a day. So it was worth every effort. Next time I'll use parchment underneath it, and maybe I won't have to pry it out of the pan. Chances are if I let it cool, it would have come off a little bit easier, but I didn't want that steam to make the bottom of it soft. So I think we're good. I may even put this on a cooling rack. Okay, thanks for joining us, guys. Recipe is in the description as always, and we look forward to sharing something again with you real soon. Bye.